What's up guys, hope you're having a good day. In this video we are going to be taking a deep dive into all of the main card fights taking place this weekend at UFC Fight Night Waterson versus Rodriguez from a betting perspective. Remember, everything on this channel is from a betting perspective, and I hope that you're going to be able to use the information in this video to make better betting decisions, put together better DraftKings lineups, and hopefully make some extra cash. And don't forget, if you'd like to watch breakdown videos for all the other fights taking place on this card on the prelims, head on over to my website, MMABettingTips.com. You'll find a link to that in the description below, where you'll find breakdown videos for all the fights taking place this weekend, as well as a bunch of other stuff, and some even more detailed breakdown videos for the fights I'll be covering in today's video. And on top of that, if you would like to join me for live betting this weekend, we do have some spaces available. 2 or 3 spots available for this weekend. Just come to the home page, go to betting tips, live betting tips, join now, and you can sign up from there. I also want to apologize for this video coming out later than usual. I have been a busy bee this week, working on some new stuff for the website and some new stuff for my future as well, which I'm taking pretty seriously. The website is in kind of a transitional period at the moment. The business side of things is in a transitional period, and I'm kind of just restructuring everything and improving the way I do things. So if you are wondering why this video's been late this week, I'm going to talk you through a few of the reasons why, so you can kind of understand what's going on behind the scenes at the moment. So the first thing I did this week was reintroduce mobile notifications to the website. So you can now get push notifications to your mobile phone every single time I start a new live stream on Twitch or on my website, and every time a new bet gets added to the site. So what happens is now every time a new bet gets added into one of the databases on the website containing the bets, you'll get an automated push alert. So if you want to receive mobile notifications when new bets get added to the site, or when I go live to stream my fight research, just go to MMABettingTips.com, go to community mobile notifications. I will leave a direct link in the description below to the Telegram channel, so if you already have Telegram, you'll know how this works. But if you don't, there's some instructions here on how to get these push notifications on your phone, and also a video tutorial showing you exactly how to set it up. So that was the first thing I worked on this week, just getting this page created. The second thing I worked on this week was making a pretty big investment into these new UFC Panini Prism cards. I am massively excited about these UFC Panini Prism cards. I'm very passionate about making money. I'm very passionate about investing. You know, I've been investing in crypto for a very long time, since back in 2016. I've been big on stocks last year, and also got into collectibles in a huge way last year. I spent £20,000, which is about, I think about $25,000 or $26,000 last year on Pokemon cards alone. It's something I'm super passionate about, and it's something I've spent a long time learning about. And so, you know, as soon as these UFC Panini Prism cards popped up, I just got very excited about them. So I've actually spent $10,000 on Panini Prism cards in the last week. I've invested a hell of a lot of money in them, and expect a lot of content coming to the channel around these cards pretty soon. I'm very excited about them, but I wanted to make a big investment in these cards early, because I honestly see you know, the cyclical nature of investing at some point turning its attention to the UFC, and you know, the explosion that we've seen in other sports cards, you know, particularly the explosion we saw in soccer sports cards in 2020. I think the UFC can capture a piece of that, particularly with the the Panini Prism cards being like the Mercedes of sports cards. So I did want to make a big investment early on before prices got out of control, and so that's one of the main reasons why the video is late this week. I wanted to fire off a lot of money and make a big investment on these, but I didn't want to do it without a lot of research, to make sure I was very confident in the shit I was buying, to give myself obviously the best chance of getting a return on that investment further down the line. So I won't talk too much about this now, but expect to see a lot of content coming to the channel around these cards and other collectible cards pretty soon. What's actually funny is that I was planning on producing content for the channel around Pokemon cards since the beginning of the year. I've been buying equipment and stuff to start shooting different kind of content for you guys, and now these UFC Panini cards have come along, and it's an absolute no-brainer how I've kind of dived into this world. On top of that, what we're also going to be doing from now on is monthly box breaks on UFC cards. So if you don't know what a box break is, come to this page on my website, go to community, scroll down, click box breaks, and on this page there will be an explanation for what box breaks are, how our box breaks will work, and basically what you get for your money if you take part in one of these box breaks. So the box breaks we will be doing are going to be streamed on this YouTube channel, on the live stream page on my website, and on my Twitch channel. And we're going to basically be doing at least one a month. Right now, just to test the water, I'm going to be doing a box break live streamed on the channel the night before every big pay-per-view. But the next one will be UFC Fight Night Font versus Garbrandt, just because I'm waiting for some prison cards to arrive. As you can see, this first box break is sold out already. All the packs went very, very, very quickly. But maybe we'll do a Prism box break in the future. So anyway, I just wanted to cover this so you know that I haven't been sat around being super lazy or anything like that. I'm always working my balls off. And yeah, this is why the video's late, man. I'm taking these Panini cards very, very seriously, because the way I look at them is, you know, I'm always looking for ways to further monetize our knowledge of MMA, right? I spend 20 to 30 hours every single week watching fights, researching fights, and so any additional way that I can monetize that time, the better. We set up the lab last year, which has been a phenomenal success. It's always kind of funny when guys leave negative comments and stuff making fun of me for losing bets, when I'm like, you have absolutely no idea how we've been doing over the last the last year since the lab was created. I mean, look at this. It's a beautiful chat. It's a beautiful chat. The haters can bag on any individual they want, but the helicopters are coming. Let me tell you, the mansions, the underground bunkers, we're doing great. Obviously, what a chat. What an absolutely brilliant chat. But obviously, we're always looking for new ways to monetize the work that we put into MMA, and so we absolutely crush on live betting. We've been doing extremely well on these pre-fight bets over the last 12 months as well, since we changed the way we do things, and the lab, now the new way of working, they're absolutely crushing. So yeah, the way I look at these new UFC cards is it's kind of almost like a combination of the stock market and the UFC, where we may be able to kind of invest in fighters' careers who are likely to have a really good career. Hopefully be able to profit from that. Just another way that we could kind of use our knowledge of MMA. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe these cards will fail, but I think the hype on them over the last week is a pretty good sign that they're here to stay. I mean, the box prices of these debut edition boxes are already up by like 50 to 60% in a week. So very, very high on these. And like I say, I've got a ton of Prism cards coming. I spent 10 grand on them. So I am looking forward to them arriving in the post. But because they've got to come from the United States, will be some time before they arrive. What else have we got to say? Okay, yeah, true. On that note, usually I would say hit the like button below, and we will do a... yo. I wanted to say what's coming up next. A few of you guys have hit me up. The reason why I remember now the reason why I was showing you the results. Few of you guys have hit me up and basically asked where the... results videos have gone, right? You have asked me. We were doing, if we go to the channel, we were obviously doing weekly review videos for like this one. Where we've got this one. We were basically doing weekly videos, right, where we were showing our performance from the previous week. I haven't done one of those in about 6 weeks. The reason being, like I said, the website's going through a transitional period at the moment where, for example, if you go to the lab, I haven't even had time to update the site. You've got coming soon text everywhere, which is really unprofessional. I'm just busy all the time. Don't have time to like do little things like this. So anyway, the long answer is I haven't had time to rebuild the results page, and it just looks really amateur if I do a results video with fucking coming soon text. But as you can see, you know, if you've been following those results videos, you will have heard me talk for a few months now about my plans to restructure the way the results data is presented, and we're getting there. Like you see, there's a new page layout here on the site. If we go to betting tips, this is a new layout on the site, and yeah, we'll get there, man. We will get there. We will get there. So, point I'm trying to make, now that I've got the UFC Prism investment made, the mobile notifications back up, rebuilding the results page is like top of my list now to get that done. And then as soon as the results page is rebuilt, we will get into those weekly results videos again, which I'm very much missing, because there's nothing more irritating than doing like pretty good on a card and some absolute jabroni sliding into my DMs and making fun of me over one losing bet when like I won the other fucking 4 I had on the card. Do you know what I mean? It's very annoying. So let's get those results videos going to shut people up. Like the way people were talking last week was like I'd like lost like every worldly possession betting on Reyes. I made a profit last week. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like I don't, obviously, like I can't share every single little bet and every single little move I make with you guys on YouTube, because I only have time to do one video a week. That's what my website's for. I made a profit last week. I don't know what to tell you. It was about break even on actual pre-fight bets. Made a small profit on live bets. Broke even. You know what I mean? Reyes wasn't my only bet. Well, I don't know what to tell you guys. And the week before that, we went 3-0 on pre-fight bets. So bet Sabatini, Rose, and Baccarat. So I don't know what to tell you guys. So I'm very much looking forward to getting these results videos back up, because I'm sick of people that think I'm literally selling my car and betting it all on one fighter every week. It's ludicrous. But anyway, that's what I've been working on. So usually about this time in a video, I would say, you know, let's do a business deal. You hit the like button, burp, 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 burp. We'll get a prop bet live stream going. But to be honest with you, I'm not going to have time to do a prop bet live stream this week, just because we got Bellator on Friday. So I'm going to have to spend all day researching Bellator on Friday, which means I'm probably going to have 1 or 2 UFC fights still to research on Saturday. So I'm going to be super busy now. And on top of that, I'll be completely honest with you guys. We go to the prop bets page. I haven't got a single prop for this event yet. We actually made a profit on props last week. We hit on Carolina to win by decision, Strickland to win by decision, for an overall profit of, I think, about, what's that, 5 units there. 1, 2, 3, 4 losing props. So we made an overall profit of 1 unit. To be fair, we came close on a couple of these. Actually, you know, we came close on 3 of these. You know, Reyes knocked Jiri down and had Jiri hurt very bad. I saw an interview with Jiri today where he was saying like he was out for a few seconds against Reyes, and you know, Kutalaba was in some trouble in round 3 against Jacoby, and you know, that fight turned out to be close in the end, right? One judge had it for one judge I think had it 29-28 Kutalaba, one had it 29-28 Jacoby, and the other judge had it a draw, so it ended up a majority draw. But we came pretty close, man. On another night, Reyes might have finished Jiri after he knocked him down, and you know, these 2 props came pretty close, and I mean, these 2 put us in profit anyway. But yeah, basically, the point I'm trying to make is there's not really much point in me doing a prop bet live stream this week, because I've researched 8 fights on this UFC card so far. I've only got 4 fights left to cover on this UFC card. And out of the 8 fights I've already done, there's not a single prop bet that I like, which is so strange. But I feel like the bookies have got the odds pretty sewn up in terms of props on this card, which is unusual, because I actually think this is a brilliant card for betting. This is the most amount of bets I've had on a card in a while. And of course, I'll be talking about a few of them in this video. I think this is a brilliant card for betting. I've got, like I say, more bets on this card than I've had in a long time on a card. Maybe not a long time, maybe 2 or 3 months. And what's weird is, even though it's good for straight bets, it's a bit shit for over-unders and a bit shit for props. So anyway, with that being said, I've talked enough. Let's get into... Oh yeah, so anyway, I was going to say, look, there's not much point in me doing a prop bet live stream this week, because I don't really like any props anyway. So I wouldn't want to waste your time, basically. I may dig up 1 or 2 by the weekend, but it's certainly not going to be, the kind of numbers we have most weeks, like 4 or 5 props. I don't see it. Don't see it going down like that, so I just don't want to waste your time. So don't worry about hitting the like button, boys. Hit the fucking dislike button instead. It's all good. And we'll be back hopefully next week with a prop bet live stream for that. What card's next week? What card is next week? Oh, it's UFC 262. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's get it going. First fight we're going to talk about, Amanda Ribas against Angela Hill. So I'm a big fan of Y'all Must Have Forgot bets. In case you hadn't realised, I love the Y'all Must Have Forgot bets. I love those bets where a very, very talented fighter is doing pretty well, and then they, run into, a tricky opponent where they lose, and all of a sudden they lose all that momentum, they lose all that hype, and people don't value them as highly as they did when they were on a winning streak. Recency bias is a mental thing in MMA, and I love the profit from it. Recency bias really has a big influence on the odds. We saw it recently with Rose Namajunas, where Zhang was this hot new thing. The people put on a really big pedestal, and they really wrote Rose off. And that was one of those Y'all Must Have Forgot bets where you could bet Rose as, a big underdog. Tons of value on Rose. In my opinion, that fight should have been even money. And obviously Rose, exploited Zhang's poor striker defense, got a big win. Last week was another good example. I know Dominic Reyes didn't win, but you had this young, hungry, up-and-coming bull in Jiri who'd shown lots of weaknesses in his past fights. And, Reyes beat the greatest fighter of all time, in my opinion. Beat Jones 3 rounds to 2. Had a tough loss against Jan Blachowicz where he took lots of damage. But then you could bet him as an underdog against an unproven guy. That's a good value bet to me. And I think we're seeing the same sort of phenomenon with Amanda Ribas this week. I think this is very much one of those Y'all Must Have Forgot bets where I strongly believe if Amanda Ribas would have fought Angela Hill before she lost to Marina Rodriguez, I honestly believe that Amanda Ribas would have been like a 1.2, minus 500 favourite over Angela Hill. But what's incredible is that one loss, that slowdown in momentum, just provides us with tons more value on Ribas. And so I do think Ribas is a good bet this weekend for reasons I'll do my best to explain now. So I know a lot of you watching this kind of just want the quick picks and that. You don't like the tons of detail. So in a nutshell, in the most simplistic way I can put it, the reason why I think Ribas is a good bet this weekend is because I think Hill has a slight striking advantage over Ribas. I don't think the advantage Hill has standing is huge, but I do think if the fight stays standing, Hill is slightly better than Ribas, right? If the fight stays standing, Hill probably wins. So Hill has that slight advantage, but it's likely to be competitive in a stand-up fight. Whereas if the fight goes to the ground, there's absolutely no question that Ribas dominates Hill, racks up 10-8 rounds, probably strangles her, rips her arm off, or, chokes her unconscious. The point I'm trying to make is Ribas' advantages on the ground are absolutely massive. She's light years ahead of Angela Hill, whereas Hill's advantages standing are only small. So in that situation, I just see an opportunity to bet a fighter that has a huge advantage in an area where their opponent is very weak. And for me, that presents a really good risk to reward ratio. So that's a very simplified way of looking at this. Like I say, if you do want to watch a more detailed breakdown on this matchup, check out my website, mabettingtips.com. We've got some little clips of stuff that'll show you why I think Ribas is a solid bet here. But we will work through without any clips. We'll just talk you guys through it. So if we look at the odds on this fight, Ribas currently around about an average of 1.54, which is minus 185 for an implied probability of 65%. And if we take a look at the odds on Hill, currently around about an average of 2.50, which is plus 150 for an implied probability of 40%. I really, really, really like Ribas in this fight, just because I believe Hill is so weak off her back that if this fight goes to the ground, Ribas is just going to be able to absolutely dominate her and it won't be a contest. Now, what you do notice about Ribas and the risk aspect to this fight is that her offensive wrestling's not great. A lot of Amanda Ribas's takedowns come from, trips and judo throws, which aren't easy to hit on someone like Angela Hill, because Angela Hill's got a base in Muay Thai. She's very strong, she's very athletic, and the clinch is actually her best position. She inflicts major damage with big hard knees, big elbows in the clinch, and so it's not easy to upset Hill's balance in the clinch with the kind of takedowns Ribas likes because of how strong Hill is there. Hill is very, very susceptible to like body lock takedowns, single legs, double legs. We don't see a lot of that from Ribas, but she definitely has it in the locker. But what you notice about Angela Hill is that her takedown defense is very, very good early in a fight. So Angela Hill's one of these fighters. I call her a round one fighter, because in round one she's light on her feet. She's got loads of pop in her shots. She's fast, she's athletic, she's strong. She's a nightmare to take down in round one. But then as the fight progresses, her volume drops, her output drops. She becomes sloppier, her hand speed declines, and Hill generally just becomes less effective as the fight goes on. Earlier in Hill's career, she had gas tank issues where she would gas as the fight went on. Hill doesn't gas anymore, but she does become sloppier. And what you really notice about Angela Hill is that she's very difficult to take down in round one, but as she gets tired into the second and third round, she becomes very, very easy to take down. If we take a look at the stats on her last fight against Ashley Yoder, the stats actually do a pretty good job of illustrating this. So if we go to Angela Hill and we look at her fight against Ashley Yoder and we break the takedowns down per round, we can see that it's a very simplified way of looking at this. But what I'm going to show you is backed up by the footage. We've watched a lot of footage on these two girls, and I can tell you, what these stats show is also backed up in the footage we've watched. Yoder attempted 2 takedowns in round 1 and didn't get anywhere near them. Couldn't get near a takedown. Hill's takedown offense looked great. In round 2, Yoder went 1 for 2 on takedowns, and in round 3 she went 1 for 2 on takedowns. Just illustrates to me, as the fight wears on, Hill becomes easier to take down. And what's even more concerning is when you do take Hill down, she's incredibly weak off her back. Amanda Ribas has got a heavy top game, high level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. She's able to inflict major damage from top position. We saw that in her fight against Randa Marcos. And her submission game's pretty nasty as well. Very difficult to submit Paige Van Zandt. Paige Van Zandt obviously is not the most skilled fighter, but go watch Paige Van Zandt's fight against Rose Namajunas. This girl is very, very difficult to tap out, and Ribas was able to do it. So the way I look at this fight, very, very simple. Hill has a slight advantage standing. Ribas has a huge advantage on the ground. The probability of Ribas hitting takedowns in this fight is quite high because of how bad Hill's takedown offense is. Therefore, Ribas has a very clear and obvious path to victory and a very clear and obvious advantage over her opponent. The only red flag really with Ribas is obviously, there are a couple of risk factors with this one. The first being this, a lot of Ribas's takedowns come from, trips and judo throws, which historically Hill is quite good at dealing with. The other red flag is this is going to be Ribas's first fight back after suffering a pretty nasty loss against Rodriguez. She wasn't knocked out by Rodriguez, but she was hurt real bad. And what's more concerning to me about this fight is that when Ribas got hurt, she didn't recover. You can see that she just wasn't that experienced to being put in a bad position, didn't really know how to fight through it. She's only 27 years old though, so I'm sure she's going to have learned from that loss. But for me, Ribas, whenever you see a fighter get badly hurt, you want to see them react like a Jiri Prochazka last weekend, right? Soon as Reyes dropped him, Jiri was immediately fighting for his life and doing his best to recover, whereas Ribas, you could see as soon as she got hurt, she kind of mentally checked out. And we'll talk about this a little bit later on with Marcus Rogerio de Lima, because we see the same thing from him a lot. So that is a red flag. It's Ribas' first fight back after a real bad loss. First time she's probably been really hurt bad like that, in her career. I don't know what happened there in this fight against Poliana Viana, but you can see she kind of panicked when she got hurt. So that's one risk factor. The second risk factor is that obviously Amanda Ribas has trained. The third risk factor is that we know Ribas, is a very skilled fighter, having, come up training full time at American Top Team. But as you can see from all her recent training pictures, it now appears that she has been back in Brazil, training in a small regional gym in Brazil for this fight, with no notable UFC training partners that I can see. So she no longer train at the main ATT gym in Florida. I'm not sure why. I don't know if that's going to have an impact on her performance this weekend, but just want to share as much info with you guys as possible. But I do think Ribas is worth a bet this weekend. Okay, move on to the next one. Speaking of bets, I said this was a very good card for betting. I strongly believe that it is. So this fight between Gregor Gillespie and Diego Ferreira is an interesting one, because Gregor Gillespie is a very, very high level, wrestler with that NCAA Division 1 level pedigree. Gregor Gillespie achieved amazing things in collegiate level wrestling, and in terms of MMA wrestling, I think this guy is one of the best MMA wrestlers in the UFC. There are certain guys that are just head and shoulders above almost everyone else. The Makhachevs, the Kimaevs, the Khabibs, the Usmans. And I really do put Gregor in that elite category of MMA grappler. He's very, very, very special. And the thing that makes Gregor's style of grappling so formidable, well, it's actually two things. The first thing is that Gregor just overwhelms you with... He overwhelms you with techniques. Similar in many ways to Khabib, but he's faster and more frantic with Khabib. With Khabib, you would see that whenever Khabib would tie a guy up, it was very, very difficult for them to disengage, because, say for example, Khabib shot in and got to a body lock. No, actually not appropriate. Say Khabib would shoot a single leg. As soon as he got hold of you, it'd be very, very difficult to get him off of you. He had that wet blanket vibe where as soon as you would defend the single leg, he would transition to a double leg. As soon as you would defend the double leg, he'd move to a body lock. And he would keep cycling through various different takedown techniques until he basically either wore you down and you became too tired to defend yourself, or, he eventually, beat you to the punch and didn't really give you an opportunity to defend the takedown, because you weren't thinking as fast as he was when he's kind of overloading you with these techniques. I see the same thing in Gregor. The difference with Gregor and why I'm so high on him is he transitions through these different positions a lot faster than Khabib does. So Khabib's more of like a methodical grappler, where he goes from stage to stage very, very slowly, but with perfect technique. Gregor's technique is a little bit wilder, but because he moves faster, it's hard for guys to kind of keep up with him, because he's constantly moving on to the next thing. This is something Kimaev does really well. But the thing I really like about Gillespie, which makes him so formidable, and I think something that puts him in his own category of elite grappler, is that this guy can push a pace that I've never really seen another MMA grappler be able to push before. Even in, pre-USADA times, where fighters were on all kinds of performance-enhancing drugs to help them, with their cardio, their physicality, their strength and conditioning. I've never seen a grappler like Gregor that can just sprint and redline it for 15 minutes and just not stop and not slow down. That's what makes Gillespie so difficult to deal with. He sets a pace that is so unsustainable for most human beings, but he can sustain it. It's a special thing. They call him the gift. He's very, very gifted. He's a special dude, a very, very, very special grappler. And again, I think, we were talking about You All Must Have Forgot bets with Rose Namajunas recently and Dominic Reyes recently. And yes, you can't win them all. But we're just talking about one with Amanda Ribas, and I think we've got another one here with Gregor Gillespie, where you've got these very talented fighters who have a great shot of winning. One little bump in the road, and the MMA betting community, the odds makers, they really significantly undervalue the chance that a fighter has just based on one little bad night at the office. Now, of course, it can't be ignored that it was an extremely bad knockout against Gregor Gillespie, against Kevin Lee. A life-changing knockout. It was a knockout that some fighters never recover from. Gillespie was out. It's as bad as it gets, and we have no idea how that's going to affect his confidence coming in. If that's going to have any, lasting impact on his confidence or his chin. And the thing about Gillespie is, even though he's tough as nails and his chin is decent, he's reckless as fuck. Like, one of the biggest weaknesses in Gillespie is that he is a sitting duck to the knockout. His boxing defense is very, very bad. I'm hoping that won't be an issue here, though, because I'm hoping he just comes in with a grappling heavy game plan and wet blankets. Carlos Diego Ferreira didn't really have a chance to do that against Kevin Lee. He fainted that he was going to shoot a couple of takedowns in that first round against Kevin Lee, but I think Gregor thought, Lee is such a strong wrestler, I probably want to wear this guy down a little bit before I get to my wrestling. And before he had an opportunity to do that, he was obviously, sent to the Shadow Realm and knocked out very, very bad. But, based on Diego Ferreira's last fight against Beneil Dariush, I do think Gillespie can take this guy down and just wet blanket him. It's an interesting fight because, this is the first time that we're going to see Gregor go up against a high-level grappler. Diego Ferreira, very high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So I think early on, Gregor will have some challenges he's going to need to overcome on the ground. But if you go back and watch Ferreira's last fight against Dariush, he was very, very scrambly in round one and difficult to hold down and control in round one. But Dariush was easily able to take him down in the second and third and hold him down. And in the second and third, when Ferreira started to get tired, he was just very easy to hold down. Dariush was easily able to rack up top control. And in terms of MMA grappling, I know a lot of you guys are very high on Dariush. Let's just focus specifically on MMA grappling. Gregor Gillespie is levels and levels and levels above Dariush when it comes to MMA grappling. We're talking about an ultra high level NCAA Division 1 level wrestler here. Gregor is about as high level as you're going to see at collegiate wrestling in the UFC. This guy is a higher level than Colby, Usman. It's different styles of grappling. That combat sambo style of Makachev, Chimaev, Khabib, that's a problem. That's kind of a different style of MMA grappling. But in terms of collegiate level wrestling, comparing directly to the Usmans, the Colbys, it doesn't get any better than Gregor. He's ultra elite, as elite as you can get when it comes to collegiate level wrestling, and his MMA grappling is just absolutely superb. You have seen over the years some guys, like Bubba Jenkins, like Darian Caldwell, that have come from that collegiate level background and they haven't really, been able to convert that collegiate wrestling style into MMA grappling. Gregor has. He's fucking nailed it. He understands the importance of position over submission. He understands top control. He's just a nightmare. He's a fucking nightmare. And so it will be interesting to see how these guys match up on the ground. I do expect Ferreira to have a little bit of success early, but as the fight wears on, I expect it to be one-way traffic. And that's largely because of the state that Ferreira's career is in right now. He's 36 years old, which is pretty old for a lightweight. Past the age of 33, particularly in the lighter weight classes, fighters start to decline significantly from year to year as the body starts to produce less and less testosterone. And I think a big issue with Ferreira is that for whatever reason, he has to kill himself to make the 156-pound lightweight limit. I don't know why, because he's not particularly big for a lightweight. He's only 5'9". But whenever we see this guy weighing in, he looks like death. And that's not going to get any easier as he gets older. So I think, this really manifested itself in a big way against Dariush. And this guy just looked, very, very flat in the second and third round. and you can't afford to be that flat against a guy like Gillespie, because he'll drown you. Because this guy ain't gonna be flat. This guy is like a ultra high level grappling version of Clay Guida. He just doesn't fucking stop. He's got prime Clay Guida cardio with elite wrestling. He's a fucking nightmare. He's a nightmare. He's an absolute nightmare. Both these guys do share the same weakness. I know I've spoken a lot about how these guys match up from a grappling perspective in this video, and that's just because they're both primarily grapplers. Carlos Diego Ferreira, high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Gregor Gillespie, high-level collegiate level wrestler. And so because both these guys are primarily grapplers, you would expect this fight to take place on the ground for the most part, especially because Ferreira doesn't really have the takedown offense to keep the fight standing. But if it stays standing, there's no doubt Ferreira will have the advantage. He's got, reasonably good boxing, throws a high volume of strikes, he's a good pressure fighter, and we know Gillespie's boxing defense is very bad. But what you do notice about Gillespie is when he does get caught with a big clean shot, he immediately looks to take the fight to his happy place, which is on the ground. And, that's why I do think he'll get the fight to the ground. Ferreira is a decent boxer, dangerous boxer, but he's more of a volume striker. Doesn't really have that one-shot KO power to knock Gregor out. I'm not saying it can't happen, I'm just saying it's unlikely. And so, if Gregor does find himself in trouble standing, I think he's going to be able to get the fight to the ground, alleviate that pressure, and do pretty well. So yeah, I'll be betting Gregor this weekend, and hopefully he comes through for us. Okay, on to the next one now. Maurice Greene against Marcos Rogério de Lima. So let's talk about the fight between Maurice Greene and Marcos Rogério de Lima. So if we start off by taking a look at the odds on this one, we can see that de Lima, one of the biggest favourites on the card, at odds of about 1.53, which is minus 189 for an implied probability of 65%. And if we take a look at the odds on Greene, he is currently around about an average of 2.60, which is plus 260 for an implied probability of 38%. I wouldn't bet this fight if I were you guys. This fight is an absolute minefield for betting. It's a very, very tricky one, because Marcos Rogério de Lima is significantly better than Maurice Greene in every single aspect of MMA. From a technical point of view, if you would ask me who has the biggest advantages over their opponent this weekend, purely based on technique, of all the fights this weekend, who has the biggest advantage, I would tell you Marcos Rogério de Lima. So you're probably wondering why I'm not recommending a bet on de Lima, and the reason is, it goes back to what George St. Pierre said: fighting is 90% mental. And while de Lima is significantly better than Greene everywhere, as soon as you put this guy in a bad position, he looks for a way out. It's very, very bizarre. His record kind of shows this. He's one of these guys that, if he doesn't get a first round finish, he just, for whatever reason, caves. And, someone in the Fight Research live stream was saying, Maurice Greene is like a white belt on the ground. There's no chance he submits de Lima. And what I said was, don't look at the fight in such a simplistic way. It's not about skills when it comes to a guy like de Lima. If de Lima fought to the best of his ability, I would agree. There's no way a guy like Greene could submit de Lima. He's not skilled enough. But that's looking at things in an overly simplistic way. What I see from de Lima is when he doesn't want to be in there anymore, he has a certain look in his eye where he is looking to give his opponent an opportunity to finish him in some way. And so it doesn't matter if de Lima's fighting a white belt or a guy that's never taken a BJJ class before. Everyone has an opportunity, everyone has a good chance of finishing de Lima, because if you can put him in that place mentally where he doesn't want to be in the cage anymore, he will give you a finish. And a really good example of this is if you go watch his fight against Stefan Struve. Just fast forward to the very end of the fight and watch how quickly de Lima taps to the arm triangle. He basically gives the submission to Struve, and as soon as Struve locks it up, he insta-taps. He basically quits in fights. Very weird phenomenon. But we talk about how these guys match up from a stylistic point of view. De Lima should give Greene absolute hell standing. One of his best weapons is his very, very heavy leg kicks. And Maurice Greene, one of these long, tall, skinny fighters, very skinny legs, stands heavy on his lead leg and is very, very susceptible to leg kicks. De Lima will be able to inflict major, major damage with his leg kicks in this fight. And also, Greene comes from a traditional kickboxing background. If you scroll down, you can see his foot in glory. And Greene has got like this very pretty style of fighting. He, likes to stand in kickboxing range, stay light on his feet, pump the jab out there, throw range-finding kicks out there. He tries to use his reach. He's 6'7" with an 82-inch reach, which means he's going to have a reach advantage over everyone in the division. And he tries to use it by being very pretty and stay on the outside and use that jab and those long-range finding kicks to chip away at his opponent from a safe distance. But Greene, I don't think, has got the memo that he's fighting in the heavyweight division where, one shot can end your night. And the thing that the issue I've got with Greene is when guys come forward and attack him, he's trying to be pretty and land like nice little counter strikes and stick and move. But the problem is, because he's quite slow to react to his opponent, he quite often gets caught cold. And his boxing defense isn't great. He's trying to kind of stick and move and circle away and pick guys off with nice little counter strikes. And if they don't read the memo and they're just going to walk right through his boxing range and load up on big power shots, this guy's there to be hit. Trying to say Greene wants like a friendly technical kickboxing match, and if you don't play that game, if you get in his face, load up on big power shots, you could put him away. He is very, very susceptible to the KO. And what we know about De Lima is that he loves to come forward, winging big, wide power hooks, and he carries big knockout power in every shot. So skill for skill, Greene is doomed here. Standing up, De Lima should be able to blast him with his leg kicks and hurt him very, very bad with his power punches. And on the ground, De Lima's light years ahead of Greene. Very, very heavy from top position. High-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, much more skilled than Greene. Greene has very bad takedown offense. He's very, very weak off his back. More of a volume striker for the heavyweight division as well. It's a very easy stylistic matchup for De Lima, which is why you see him as a big favourite. But I can't bet on this guy because he just quits. It's as simple as that. If Greene does something to him in the fight that he doesn't like or puts him in a bad position, it doesn't matter how big the skill gap is, De Lima will look for a way out. And that's not the kind of guy I want to bet on a big favourite odds. But skill for skill, it's a really tough fight for Greene. So I hope you found that useful. Let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about Neal Magny against Geoff Neal. And I said that I really, really like this card for betting. It's the best card I've seen for pre-fight betting in a while. And again, I really like Geoff Neal in this fight. I will be betting Geoff Neal this weekend. So if you take a look at the odds on this one, we've got Geoff Neal, average odds of about 1.53, which is minus 189 for an implied probability of 65%. If we look at the odds on Neal Magny, currently around about an average of 2.65, which is plus 165 for an implied probability of 38%. And again, possibly another you almost have forgot bet. It's probably our third on this card, right? Gillespie, Ribas, and Geoff Neal. The betting market, the betting public, just giving us extra value on Neal based on him losing a little bit of momentum in his last fight against Stephen Thompson. But Stephen Thompson is not Neal Magny, and Neal Magny will not be able to cause Geoff Neal problems in the same way that Stephen Thompson did. So Neal Magny has got a huge weakness in his skill set that he's had throughout his career, and that he doesn't react well to pressure fighters. You probably have got flashes and hazy memories of Neal Magny circling away from his opponents and chipping away at them with the jab. But Neal Magny's actually a pretty bad counter striker, to the point where if you put him on the back foot, put a lot of pressure on him, it's very, very easy to back him up and very, very easy to trap him in bad positions against the cage, especially in a small cage like the UFC Apex Center will have. When you trap Neal Magny against the cage, when you pressure him, his striking defense goes out the window. He's like a scared rabbit. He just kind of turtles up, and he's a sitting duck to the knockout, basically. Go watch a fight against Lorenz Larkin. Go watch his fight against Santiago Ponzinibbio, where this becomes very clear. And, Geoff Neal's one of these guys that is very good at cutting the cage off, very good at pressuring his opponents, Very good boxer, big power in his hands, very, very fast. And the thing with Magny, the problem that Magny has, and what makes him a much easier test for Jeff Neal than Stephen Thompson, is when you come forward on a guy like Stephen Thompson's footwork and movement is amazing. He's a brilliant counter striker. But on top of that, when you're walking Thompson down and trying to pressure him and cut the cage off, he's very, very good at landing big damaging strikes while moving backward, which is a very difficult thing to do. And we've seen him use this to inflict major damage on Jeff Neal, major damage on Vicente Luque, two of the top guys in the welterweight division. Neal Magny's completely different. He's a volume striker, no power on it in his hands. It's very difficult to come forward on a guy like Thompson with a lot of pressure without taking big damage. Whereas against Magny, he really struggles to get respect from the outside, and that's why he has so much trouble against guys that can walk him down and put a lot of pressure on him. So if this fight stays standing, I just see Neal coming forward, cutting the cage off, forcing Magny to fight in an uncomfortable range and just lighting him up basically and hurting Magny real bad, if I'm honest. The one area where Magny may have some success, or I guess two areas, they're kind of tied together, is the clinch or on the ground. Neal Magny's not good at alleviating pressure through counter strikes because he has no power in his hands. So Magny's way of alleviating pressure is when his opponents come forward, he looks to tie him up in the clinch, put their back on the cage, work for takedowns. Now, Magny is a very, 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 very low level grappler. We've seen this in his fights against Chiesa, against Rafael dos Anjos. This guy never improves. Ultra low level on the ground. But for whatever reason, he still tries to take his opponents down. I think it's because a lot of the time he finds himself in trouble standing. So that's like his plan B. Jeff Neal's not great on the ground either. So this will be one of those fights where, Magny could have a little bit of success on the ground. But having said that, Magny's offensive wrestling is not great. He's not great on the ground. And Jeff Neal's takedown offense is pretty fucking good, to be honest with you. If we look at his record, he's defended 92% of takedowns. And what's even more impressive is Belal Muhammad went 0 for 7 on takedown attempts when he fought Jeff Neal. I personally believe Belal Muhammad is one of the best offensive wrestlers in the welterweight division. The timing on Belal Muhammad's double leg takedown entries is better than anyone's in the welterweight division. It's phenomenal. And Jeff Neal was completely shutting down everything that Muhammad threw at him. So if a guy like Belal Muhammad with excellent offensive wrestling can't take a guy like Jeff Neal down, it is significantly unlikely that Neal Magny will be able to. But I've got to talk about it because it's a risk factor. So from my perspective, I like Jeff Neal in this fight because I think he has a real big advantage over Neal Magny when it comes to striking. I think Jeff Neal's high pressure style in particular is trouble for Neal Magny. But if the fight goes to the ground, it could be sketchy. But I'm happy to take a bet on Jeff Neal here if I lose the bet, because Neal Magny causing trouble on the ground is what it is. That's why they call it gambling. Based on past performances, based on how these guys match up stylistically, and based on the stats, super unlikely Magny gets Neal down and holds him down. So I'm happy to bet Neal here. I hope you found that useful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, now let's talk about the fight between Donald Cerrone and Alex Morono. So let's get into the fight between Donald Cerrone and Alex Morono. So this fight was obviously put together on Monday. So Alex Morono is coming into this fight on 5 or 6 days notice. Donald Cerrone is also obviously taking the fight on short notice, but he was training for Diego Sanchez. So he is coming in with a full camp here. If we take a look at the odds on this one, we can see that Donald Cerrone, currently a pretty big favourite at average odds of about 1.53, which is minus 189 for an implied probability of 65%. And if we take a look at the odds on Alex Morono, he is currently around about an average of 2.60, which is plus 160 for an implied probability of 38%. So for me, this breakdown is very, very similar to the things that I said in the Marcus Rogerio de Lima versus Maurice Greene breakdown. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Donald Cerrone is significantly better than Alex Morono in every single aspect of MMA. If the fight stays standing, Cerrone is a supremely better striker that will light Morono up, and Morono doesn't really have a chance standing. If the fight goes to the ground, Cerrone's probably got an even bigger advantage. Morono is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he's very, very weak off his back. Not a great wrestler, and we know Cerrone is ultra high level on the ground. On top of that, Cerrone has an incredible gas tank, and what's very unique about Donald Cerrone is even though he's had 50 pro fights, even though he's 38 years old, and he's got tons of miles on the clock, Cerrone's chin is still very much there. He's fought some absolute monsters, over the last few years, but none of them have been able to really put him out. Even Justin Gaethje, even Conor McGregor kind of stopped him with volume. No one shut this guy's lights off. And, back in September, we saw him go 3 rounds against Nico Price, which is pretty fucking impressive for a 38-year-old guy, because we know Price is one of these guys that's got absolute nuclear missiles in his hands. Price has got crazy abnormal power for the division, and, for Donald Cerrone to stand in front of this guy for 3 rounds and not get knocked out, pretty fucking impressive, because at 38 years old, with all the wars he's been in, you'd be expecting his chin to start to let him down. So the chance of Morono scoring a flash KO, pretty unlikely, especially because if you look at Morono's record, he's a little bit of a decisionator, doesn't have too much power in his hands. We saw him inflict an incredible amount of damage on Rhys McKee back in November, and he couldn't put McKee away. So this is one of those fights where Cerrone should win easily, he should cruise. My problem with Cerrone is performance anxiety is a big issue with him. And he's pretty fucking old. 38 years old. He's going to be declining big time from fight to fight. Father Time's knocking on the door. Cerrone is looking worse and worse every time we see him. He's now looking physically old. And he's not as sharp as he used to be. Gas tank's still there. Chin's still there. He's still dangerous everywhere. But he just doesn't move as well. You guys know what I'm saying, man. If you've been watching Cerrone, it's not the cowboy that, was doing a damn thing 3-4 years ago, right, with the Matrix style combinations against Matt Brown. He's different. So with this bet, it's a very similar situation to Marcus Rogerio de Lima, where, Cerrone definitely has an advantage over Morono everywhere. But with his performance anxiety, we never really know what version of Cerrone we're going to get. Sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. And, this is a big opportunity for Alex Morono. He's a young, hungry bull, only 30 years old. Cerrone would be a big, big, big name on his record, and I'm sure Morono is coming in super motivated. Even though he's only taking the fight on 5 or 6 days' notice, Morono's gas tank is amazing. This guy's always in shape, he never slows down. So, the way I look at this is, whenever it comes to a fighter like Donald Cerrone that sometimes shows up and sometimes he doesn't, I can only ever bet a fighter like this at underdog odds, because it's always a 50-50 shot whether he's going to turn up or not. If you bet Cerrone this weekend and he has crippling performance anxiety before the fight like we've seen from him in the past, then you're not really getting a very good risk to reward ratio on your money at Cerrone's current odds with him being a big favourite. So I don't see enough in Morono for me to want to roll the dice on Morono, because Cerrone is better than him everywhere. But I don't want to bet on Cerrone either at these odds, just because he's hard to trust as a big favourite. So this one is going to be a pass from me. Now let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about the fight between Marina Rodriguez and Michelle Waterson. So this fight was made on very, very, very short notice, which means there's a huge X factor on this fight, which I believe gives Marina Rodriguez quite a big advantage in this matchup. We'll talk about that in a moment. So Marina Rodriguez currently around about an average of about 1.47, which is minus 213 for an implied probability of 68%. And if we take a look at the odds on Michelle Waterson, we can see that she's currently around about a 2.70 favourite, which is plus 170 for an implied probability of 37%. So this is an interesting matchup, because it was put together on about a week's notice. It didn't actually look like the fight was going to happen at one stage because Marina Rodriguez was having trouble with her travel, but it is going ahead now, and I'm kind of shocked at the UFC here because not only is this fight going ahead on a week's notice where there's been tons of disruption to Rodriguez's travel to Las Vegas, but on top of that, they are doing a 5-round main event. So not only are these girls coming in on a week's notice, but it's also 5 rounds. It's not a 3-round fight, it's 5 rounds. And on top of that, it's in the flyweight division, which is perhaps the craziest aspect of all for me. And I do think this gives Rodriguez a pretty fucking massive advantage, if I'm honest with you. Obviously, we know Rodriguez and Waterson are strawweight, so we can see Rodriguez here fights in the strawweight division. We can see Waterson, she fights in the strawweight division. Everything cool there. So you're probably at this stage thinking, well, you know what? What deal is, why is this fight being at flyweight such a big deal? Both girls have agreed to fight on short notice at flyweight. This will help both of them. They won't have to cut as much weight, and hopefully they'll come in fresher on fight night. This is a huge disadvantage for Michelle Waterson because Marina Rodriguez is a very big, strong, physically imposing, athletic strawweight, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. Michelle Waterson is a small, slight, feminine strawweight at 5'3", 62-inch reach. Very big difference in physicality. If you look at Waterson, she's very feminine. She lacks physicality. If you look at Marina Rodriguez, even just look at her shoulders and arms. Strong, muscular, and athletic. Big difference in physicality. Rodriguez is also bigger than Waterson. You look at her size and reach, she's bigger. And on top of that, it wasn't that long ago that Waterson was fighting in the atomweight division. So here we've got an undersized strawweight in Waterson that should probably be fighting in the atomweight division, right? Lots of fights in the atomweight division. Michelle Waterson's only fighting at strawweight because there is no atomweight division in the UFC. So we've got a small strawweight fighting a huge strawweight at flyweight. This just gives Rodriguez a massive advantage. Already at strawweight, she would have had a big advantage when it comes to physicality, and now she's going to have an even bigger advantage when it comes to physicality because she doesn't have to cut as much weight. So this fight taking place at flyweight is a huge advantage for Rodriguez, and I do feel that Waterson's team have kind of let her down a little bit, letting her take this fight on short notice, 5 rounds, against someone that is pretty fucking nasty. She knocked out Ribas in her last fight. We know how good Ribas is. That tells you all you need to know about how dangerous Rodriguez can be. But from a stylistic point of view, it's actually a pretty good fight for Michelle Waterson, as crazy as that sounds. If the fight stays standing, I think Rodriguez murders Waterson. There's no question. Rodriguez has got nasty Muay Thai. Big power in her hands. Ribas, we can see on the receiving end of it in this picture. So Rodriguez, very, very nasty. Power in her hands, and she's evil in the clinch. The damage she can inflict with knees and elbows in the clinch, pretty nasty. Rodriguez is one of the few girls in this strawweight division that has true fight-ending power. She is devastating, and the issue with Waterson is that she does tend to slow down as the fight goes on. So on a week's notice, going up a weight class, 5-round fight, Waterson is going to get sloppier and sloppier as the fight goes on. Is going to become easier and easier to hit as the fight goes on. And so, Rodriguez is going to be able to inflict a lot of damage. Remember how much damage Joanna Jędrzejczyk was able to inflict. And the worst part about Michelle Waterson is that she's really fucking tough. She's got the heart of a lion, that warrior spirit, and quite often that results in her taking a lot of damage, which is really, really sad to see. But this is actually a good stylistic matchup for her, because for all of Rodriguez's amazing strength standing, her takedown offense is a joke. She's very low level on the ground. She's basically white belt level on the ground. If you take Rodriguez down, you can rack up a lot of top control because she has no idea how to work her way back up to her feet. She doesn't even attempt to work her way back up to her feet. Waterson's not the most high-level grappler. She's not an amazing wrestler or anything like that. But we have seen her implement grappling-based strategies in a lot of her recent fights. She used grappling to beat Hill. She tried to use grappling to beat Jędrzejczyk, and she actually did put Jędrzejczyk in some bad positions in that matchup. Used grappling to beat Kowalkiewicz, and Felice Herrig, and even Courtney Casey. So Waterson's one of these fighters that has adapted that karate-based style to incorporate more grappling. And if Waterson comes in with a grappling-heavy game plan, I think she can give Rodriguez absolute hell. Now, where this gets tricky from a betting point of view is even though I think Waterson can take Rodriguez down and just ram Rodriguez on the ground, the problem with betting Waterson here is as the fight wears on, Waterson is going to become flatter, slower, easier to hit, and her offensive wrestling is going to become less effective as Waterson starts to get more tired. So the danger to betting Waterson in this fight is, does there reach a point in the matchup where Waterson is too tired to take someone as big and strong and physically imposing as Rodriguez down? That's what I'd be worried about here. But from a betting perspective, there's no way I can touch Rodriguez here because her takedown offense is very bad. She's very weak off her back, makes no effort to get back up to her feet. Waterson will have a huge advantage on the ground. But it's difficult for me to bet Waterson as well, just because it will take a lot of energy to implement a grappling heavy game plan for 25 minutes. And I don't think Waterson's got that energy. And if she gets tired, like I say, Rodriguez is very nasty. She's one of those girls in the division that is, nasty enough to be able to put Waterson away and punish her for slowing down. She's not like a Joanna Jędrzejczyk that can just chip away with volume, inflict a lot of damage with volume, but not necessarily have the power to put you away. Rodriguez has the power to put you away. And so, from a betting point of view, I would strongly recommend you pass on this one, just because both girls have got big strengths that can exploit their opponent's weakness. But if you do want to bet this fight, I do think it's a dog or pass situation, and you've got to go with Waterson. Waterson will give you a better risk to reward ratio, but it's risky because, fighting at flyweight against a big girl on a week's notice in a 5-round fight, it's going to be a challenge for Waterson. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching. Check out my website, mabettingtips.com. If you like these breakdowns, there's plenty more on the website where we'll break down all the other fights on this card. And also, if you want more detailed analysis on any of the bets I've recommended in this video, you'll find more detailed videos on my website as well. We've got the VIP chat room. Don't forget there's some spots available for live betting this weekend. Try it out. You will fucking love it. And watch out for some UFC Panini Prism videos content coming soon. Got lots coming on this front. I'm very excited about it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Nice one, boys. Love you. Hope you crush it. Make loads of money. Punch the bookies in the dick. And we'll be back next week for UFC 262. Nice one.